That's like the motorcycle vest I'm wearing. This patch right here. I was at Founders Day in Akron. Guy comes up. He's wearing his motorcycle vest like I was wearing mine. He pointed to his patch. I pointed to mine. We gave thumbs up. So he came over and I said, "Well, when were you?" He said, "Well, I was there in 95 and 96. I said, "Really?" I said, "Who were you with?" He said, "I was with the artillery." I said, "Well, I was the sergeant major of that artillery battalion." He went to crying. And he went through the motorcycle and he grabbed me and he hugged me. He says, "You saved my life."
Yeah.
What happened was he went to treatment as a young soldier, came back, and he asked his first sergeant, "Will you move me into a non-drinking room?" And the first sergeant says, "Hell no." So we have an open door policy where you can talk to the chain of command in the Army. So this kid requested to talk to me. So I moved that kid from A battery to headquarters.
You didn't know it was him.
It was 25 years later. We connected, and now we exchange a gratitude list every morning. What a great life.
Wow, this is fantastic.
I heard it through the grapevine.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
And I'm Olis, an alcoholic in Oakland, California.
Olis, how you doing?
I'm good, Don. Long time no see. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was wondering, what were you like when you were drunk? Were you like a crier, or were you solemn, or were you?
Unpredictable. I'm still like this today, though. I'm like a sweet and sour patch kid. Sometimes I'm sweet, sometimes I'm sour. It's just exaggerated when I was drunk.
I was exaggerated looking for attention when I was drunk and making a spectacle of myself. One of my favorite tricks was at a party to say, "Have you got some eggs, some raw eggs? I can juggle." And I can't juggle. And I would juggle raw eggs and they'd fall on the floor. And I thought this was hilarious. But we were in one house. I was in one house. They didn't like it. They didn't think it was as funny as I did.
Nobody wants wasted food. But now that eggs are $10 a dozen, you cannot be going to nobody's house wasting their good eggs.
That's right. Eggs are outrageous. Inflation. Everything's gone up.
You know what hasn't gone up, Don?
What?
How much we put in the basket.
It hasn't really gone up.
We're still putting $1 in the basket.
I talked to the archivist for North Carolina, and he said that the first meeting in Greensboro was in 1946. They met in someone's home to organize AA, and they collected $12. They passed the hat, and there's a record of how much they collected. 12 people attended. That's $1 in the basket.
Yeah. And $1 is not worth nearly what it was worth.
$1 then was worth $16 now.
Really?
Yeah.
You looked that up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not asking people to put $15 in the basket today. We're not asking that. But here's what we are asking. We're asking that people contribute, not donate. Donate infers that it's charity. I'm giving something to someone else for their benefit.
Yeah.
But contribute. I'm self-supporting and giving in accordance with our ability. We will go to the coffee house and spend $8 on a coffee.
Yep.
Whipped cream and all of that, and come to the meeting and put $1 in the basket. And if coffee's $8, surely we understand that rent's more, literature's more.
All costs have gone up, and I know our area is in trouble with the budget. And then the same thing is true with GSO. So I asked for people to give suggestions of what they share in meetings.
These are announcements that people make with their seventh tradition?
Yes, this is what 3 people shared. One was, the 7th tradition is spiritual. The dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. That one's very close to my home group's language. We say that. AA is a program of change, and we'll take yours.
I love that.
But my favorite one, and because I had kind of intuitively thought of this, how expensive it was to drink. And so their language is, the suggested contribution is the cost of a drink. If everyone would contribute the cost of a drink, We'd be flush.
You know, one of the other things that I really am committed to is on my anniversary, every year, I give multiples of $1 for every year that I have been sober.
Oh, I do that on my birthday as well.
Right.
We do that. It's our home group tradition.
Yeah. When you think about just the money I've saved on drinking, the money I've saved on tickets and DUIs and courts and lawyers and getting my car out of the boot, like what a bargain. What a bargain Alcoholics Anonymous is. It's not just contributing to my group right now today. It's contributing to Alcoholics Anonymous at large, so that we can answer letters from people in other countries, so that we can help people start groups, so that we can just be the hand of AA when people reach out and need us.
We want to be there.
Love is a verb. It's not a feeling, it's a verb. But Don, I have advice for you, my friend. No more juggling, Don. No more juggling.
I quit that behavior. I can't juggle, and I'm not going to pretend like I can.
Well, if you can't juggle sober, you sure can't juggle drunk.
Olis, who's our guest today?
Mack M. from North Carolina, who I believe you know.
Yes.
After Mack, we're going to answer a question that was sent in from one of our listeners for our segment, A Newcomer Asks.
And we're going to have lots of listener feedback. But first, the news. The Military Veteran Interview Project was recently announced. It invites AA members who are veterans of the United States or Canadian Armed Forces to participate in a unique opportunity to share their experiences.
There will be several audio interviews in which anonymity-protected AA members who are military veterans share their experience, strength, and hope, focusing on the intersection of military service and recovery in AA.
They are seeking representation from a broad spectrum of veterans across all branches of the armed services in Canada and the U.S. They aim to include voices from a diverse range of backgrounds, ranks, ages, genders, orientations, and operational experiences. Each story will illustrate the journey of recovery and sobriety during or after military service. If you are an AA member and would like to learn more about this project or volunteer for an interview, please email militaryoutreach@aa.org. That's militaryoutreach@aa.org. The anonymity of all participants will be rigorously protected.
And to hear audio interviews of active duty AA members, just go to aa.org/military.
Our 12 Steps is a brand new collection of stories from AA members about working the program's 12 Steps of Recovery. Each chapter illuminates a different step through the experiences of a wide variety of AA members. This volume features all new, up-to-date stories from the pages of Grapevine, the International Journal of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is great for sponsees and step meetings, and it's only $13.99 at aagrapevine.org/books.
Okay, my name's Mack, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm from Greenville, North Carolina. I got sober 20 February 1989. That's 36 years and some change. You know, it's funny you bring up that military veterans. My sponsor is the guy taking care of that in the United States, and he's working very closely with the guy in Canada.
Uh-huh.
So I get to hang out with him once a month via Zoom. Anyway, when I drank, I was not a good guy.
You didn't juggle?
No, but I thought I was good looking. I was 6 foot tall and all the women loved me. But that was the furthest from the truth. It was very unpleasant.
Did you get into trouble?
Yes, I got a DUI in 1977 in California while I was stationed there in the Army.
Whereabouts were you stationed?
Fort Ord, California.
Yeah, beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, I'm glad you think so. But Fort Ord was okay. You know, I was full-blown alcoholic. I survived that. Met a girl, took her hostage, got married, started a family. And I was going to get out of the Army, but they offered me some money. I re-enlisted, ended up in Germany, and I made a career out of it, and I retired in 1998 at Fort Hood, Texas.
Did you quit drinking while you were in the military?
Yeah, I got sober in 1989 at Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Was it easy to be a drunk in the military?
I don't know that it was easy. Being a drunk anywhere is hard work. I don't know how I got where I was going because I spent most of my time in the rearview mirror instead of looking out the windshield. Because I was worried about the police everywhere I went because when I drank, I had to drive.
My question is, wasn't it a problem getting any advancements or anything in the military if you're an alcoholic?
Well, I was an overachiever, so I was very productive. I was a perfectionist. So it was what the Army really sought out. I had been sober, I'd have went a hell of a lot further and a lot quicker. But I hit that dark hole and life became so painful I couldn't live with drinking, so I had to ask for some help.
Mack, what was that last drunk? What was going on with you inside?
That last drunk was February 18th, 1989. I went to my favorite watering hole in Leesville, Louisiana, the American Legion, where I got drunk. And I turned around and got in my car and drove back to Fort Polk, Louisiana, because I'd left my wife. So I went upstairs to the BAQ, which is the bachelor quarters for single soldiers. And I laid down in a bed with a cigarette and passed out and went to sleep. And God woke me up because the bed was on fire. I'd burned it up. I'd burnt my left arm really, really bad. It singed the top of my body. But I drug that mattress out and got in the dumpster. So that was a very dark place. And I wrapped up. And the next one, when I woke up or came to, I looked over in a 48 quart cooler and there was one beer left. It was a really lonely place. I don't ever want to forget that place. So I got in my car and drove across town, and I looked at my wife and I says, I'm going to do something about my drinking. She gave me that Al-Anon nod. She had heard that before. She looked at me and says, you know, I love you. If you just quit drinking, you're welcome to come home. So the next morning, I went back to the Drug and Alcohol Center. That was on Monday morning, and spoke with the same lady that was a part of the intervention in January. This was about 45 days later when the pain got so bad that I couldn't take it any longer. And I asked for help, and that lady wanted to put me in detox and in the hospital. And that's where I really needed to go.
Yeah.
But that's not where I ended up at. I told that lady, I said, no, I have an obligation with the Army, and I'm going to the desert for training. You know, I was a platoon sergeant in my unit, and I went, and I would not encourage anyone to go to detox in the desert. That's not a very good place.
You detoxed yourself?
Yeah, which is very dangerous. Matter of fact, my medical NCOIC went around and checked all the units each day. He rechanged the bandage on my arm, and my arm healed.
What, you hurt your arm?
Yeah.
He got it burnt up.
Oh, from the burns.
Yeah, I burnt my left arm really bad. It was when I went to the Walmart pharmacist to ask for some help. He told me I needed to see a doctor, and I said, "Well, I'm
He
not."
tried to send you to the hospital.
I wasn't seeing no doctor because the Army wasn't not going to find out about this.
Wow.
When I got ready to leave the desert, I asked to speak with my commander, and I told him I needed help, and he says, "We're glad you're asking for help because we were going to get you help when we got back to Louisiana." I went back to that Drug and Alcohol Center and saw that lady, but that lady gave me the best information that anyone could ever. She says, here's an AA schedule of where the meetings are at. And she says, when you get to your first AA meeting, buy a big book, a 12 and 12, and start reading it. And I knew where the AA meeting was because I went there 3 years prior.
Why did you go 3 years prior?
I got a DUI in 1986. So I knew where that AA meeting was in DeRidder, Louisiana. So I went back, and some of those people at that meeting remember me, and that was the first time I'd gotten honest with a group of people, and I walked to the podium and picked up a desire chip not to drink, and that lady looked at me and says, you know, we love you, keep coming back, and that's what I did, and I will never forget what she said. It resonates with me. She said, you don't have to sober up again.
Right.
Because it's hard.
Yeah. So I went to treatment, and treatment says you need a sponsor before you leave, so I really thought that they were going to check, and it was never the right time to ask this guy to be my sponsor. My pride got in the way, you know, he'd be laughing, talking with other people. And so I called this guy Collect. He said, yeah, I'd love to be your sponsor. And I'm thinking, you know, I've toyed with this, lost sleep over not having a sponsor. He says, but if you do this tomorrow night, you'll never have to sober up again. He said, when you leave treatment tomorrow, go to an AA meeting tomorrow night. So I called one of those alcoholics that had been bringing me to the treatment center to come pick me up at the motel and take me to an AA meeting. And then I flew out on Saturday morning. When I landed in Alexandria, Louisiana, my sponsor was there and he picked me up.
Mm-hmm. He met you when you landed.
Oh, yeah. That sponsor was at that airport. And of course, he wouldn't take any money for gas or any of that stuff.
No.
And that's like that old guy in El Paso at the treatment center would take us out and buy us coffee and apple pie. I didn't understand any of that. I do today, though.
Yep.
The message was, do for another alcoholic what we've done for you.
That's all that we ask. So,
but anyway, he took me to AA meetings and we worked the steps. He got me involved in service work. He put me in the front door and made me a greeter. And that is not what I wanted to do.
No.
But he stood with me.
Mm-hmm.
He showed me how to do that. And then he would fill his 15-passenger van up and we'd take an AA meeting to a treatment facility. Mm-hmm. We did it every month. But in the middle of that stuff, I'd been sober probably maybe 3, 4, 5 months, somewhere in there. We always had an eating meeting the last Friday night of each month in my first home group. But before they would start the meeting, they'd always do a raffle. And I won a subscription to the Grapevine. Really, what my sponsor did was he put that dang ticket in his pocket, stuck his hand in that jug, and then when he pulled out, he had that ticket.
Yep.
He had my ticket. I've seen it happen after that over and over again.
Certain people would win.
Yeah. You always give a subscription to a newcomer. Yeah. After I look back on it, it was so cool. But I've read the Grapevine for 36 years. I give it to sponsee.
Yeah.
Give them a subscription to the Grapevine. So if they don't stay sober, I'm going to aggravate them for 12 months. That Grapevine's going to come to their mailbox.
That's
so
right.
When they take it out, they're going to get a reminder.
That's good.
So early in sobriety, it made me a believer to utilize my sponsor when I get ready to make what I think is a small decision or a big decision, run it by him. It's just paid really big dividends.
What's the point of having a sponsor? Even being sober a long time, I still depend on my sponsor to check my thinking because I'm all wrapped up in my emotions. And I have strong opinions about what I should do. And even like stepping back, praying, and if I talk it out with my sponsor what I'm going to do, sometimes he'll have a different opinion because he can see what's going on with me where like I can see what's going on with other people when I'm not involved in their story,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get all spun up about an issue. And it could be just someone's not doing what I think they ought to do.
Yeah.
So I'll call my sponsor. Normally, most times it's, Mack, that's none of your business. I believe in my sponsor. I love my sponsor.
My sponsor helps me see how even when I'm right, I'm wrong the way that I'm right. That maybe I'm technically correct, but the way that I approach it can be not helpful, not the spirit of Alcoholics Anonymous. I need it to be someone I trust to point out something that's hard to see.
So I met my last sponsor at a old timers panel.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of that panel, we both ride motorcycles. So we exchanged phone numbers. He's retired. I'm retired. So we already had something in common. And with this sponsor I have now, I did something differently than I'd ever done before. When I got on my motorcycle, left Greenville to meet him at New Bern, North Carolina, when we sat outside, I told that man my deepest, darkest secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, everything was easy.
Your instinct was, which was mine, to let him know exactly who I am.
Yeah, I told him my deepest, darkest secret. And after I did that, he shared his. It's amazing how there's parallels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he looked at me and he says, is there anyone you haven't made amends to? I'm thinking, don't he know who I am? I've been sober 32 and a half years. Now, why would he ask me that? But I'd already prayed and asked God to help me be honest on my way from Greenville to New Bern, which was about a 45-minute ride. So I looked at him. I said, yep, there's 2 people I need to make amends to.
Wow.
He took me through the big book, and we redid the 12 steps. And then we got to the list of 8 and 9.
Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others.
We rehearsed those amends.
Yeah.
The phone call I was going to make to this guy. And I made amends to this guy. A guy I screwed over when I was a teenager, here long before I joined the Army. I made restitution, made amends.
I found that very daunting that this was something that AA was going to ask me to do. What do you get out of making amends? What do you get from going to people that you have harmed and admitting the exact nature of your wrongs to them?
Well, the 12 and 12, now literature tells us that's a promise that 9 out of 10 of them are going to be favorable.
Mm-hmm.
And here was a guy that I'd been friends with all my life that didn't know I'd done this. When I got through sharing, he shared. He was an alcoholic, but he went to church and got saved. So Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't hold a monopoly on sobriety.
That's right.
We have a way that works, but it's not the only way.
It's not the only way. At 69 years old, at 32 years and a half years sober, I still was afraid to make that phone call. So I had to ask God to help me. But I had rehearsed with my sponsor. I had exactly written down on a 5A card exactly what I wanted to say. He took me to his church. We sat down at a table.
Yeah.
And I took that 5A card out and I read what I had written on there. And I slid a check across the table. And I said, I'm hoping you'll accept this. He picked that check up and he says, this means nothing. He says, but what you're doing means everything. The amends set me free. I'm not carrying a big bag of garbage around, worrying about who's going to see me, where am I going to be, when I'm going to run into this person in a restaurant or at church or an AA meeting or whatever. Being free is, I don't know that I can express it in words.
Mack, this has been great, but we want you to hang around because we got some feedback from the audience.
All right.
It's time for the Ask It Basket.
What's that?
That's the name Bill W. gave the basket that was passed around for questions. We want your questions for our guests.
General recovery questions, newcomer questions, AA history.
Got a question for the Ask It Basket? Go to aagrapevine.org and click on podcast.
And now, let's dip into the basket.
We received this question for our segment, A Newcomer Asks, from Madeline M. She writes,
Here's a question I had when I first got sober. If a member is hitting on me or harassing me, is there someone I tell about it? What do I do? It's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that we suffer from the kinds of things that you'll find in the general population. The difference is that we've got a series of spiritual exercises to help us do better. So I think there are two really important things. I certainly had this problem as a young woman in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got here at 26 and, I think I was kind of cute. Maybe not true, but I certainly thought so. And when I felt uncomfortable, there were two things I needed to do. One is I needed to use the voice that I was learning to have, to say, I'm not interested, I'm not comfortable, please leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. It's okay to say no, just leave me alone.
But the other thing I needed to do was tell somebody in the meeting that I perceived as having some leadership. The secretary, the literature person, somebody that was in Alcoholics Anonymous longer than me, that I could say, I'm really uncomfortable. This guy keeps asking me out. This guy keeps making comments that I'm uncomfortable with. Me taking responsibility for my own safety, but allowing the group to support me is the winning combination here. Mack, what do you think?
Yeah, immediately, it's really probably difficult to stand up for ourselves as a newcomer, to just say, I'm not interested or please leave me alone. And it's also difficult for a newcomer if it's a lady to talk with, a lady in the meeting that she has some trust and confidence in, that has that leadership. But if she does that, that lady is going to come to one of the elder statesmen in that meeting, and the men will take care of that. Because I've been a part of that. To where we take whatever his name is to decide, hey, look, this is not a dating service. This is an AA meeting.
That's right.
But you're right. This is not a perfect world. It's Alcoholics Anonymous. Attend one AA meeting here in Greenville that they read the safety card.
Yes.
There's probably a tendency to want to keep it to yourself, but really you need to share it with the old timers in the meeting who have been there, because if they don't know, they can't do anything about it.
Any member that is harassing another member, it's not personal. You're just in the blast radius.
Yes.
They're doing it to you, they'll do it to somebody else. So I think the speaking up is not just for us, but it's for the safety of the group overall.
Yeah, bring it up. Let someone know there that you feel uncomfortable. We don't ever want to violate tradition one, which is the unity of Alcoholics Anonymous. So we talk about that.
Okay, we got this email from Michael S. The subject is, when did old become a dirty word? Hey y'all, love the show. Thanks so much for carrying the message in such a fun and accessible way. Listening to the most recent episode, I had to chuckle and shake my head at the replacement of old-timers with long-timers. The implicit assumption here is that old is a bad thing. Of course, that's what our youth-obsessed culture would have us think, but AA has never cared what the mainstream culture thinks. Anyway, I'm all for updating our language to be more respectful and inclusive, but I think this one is a misstep. Just my 2 cents. Thanks again, y'all, for a weekly dose of laughs and recovery. Kindly, Michael S. in Colorado. Michael, I know the episode you're talking about, and yes, the language long-timers. I remember saying to someone that they were an old timer and they were going, I'm not old. And they got offended by it. So, it is a matter of not wanting to upset somebody who's sensitive about age. But I don't know. I'm an old timer. I mean, I embrace it. I won't be an old timer at the International Convention. You're not an old timer until 50 years.
I appreciate the comment. I kind of feel the way about the fact that I'm finally an old timer. Now people don't want to call me that. They want to call me a long timer. I'm an old timer. I got here in 1987. I'm 37 years sober. I'll be 38 years sober. I am an old timer.
Yeah, but Olis, I don't want to call you old.
I'm old.
I think it's a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a compliment too.
If someone's real sensitive, tell them to go to page 125 in the big book. Read the last paragraph. Some of us don't ever get over this gross handicap, huh?
So we're old timers, Michael. That's what we want to tell you. We are still old timers.
I'm an old timer. I think it's a compliment.
You've been sober a long time.
Yeah, you've been sober a long time, so you're an old timer. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. Michael, I understand it. Thanks so much for writing. Mack, thanks for joining us today. This has been great fun.
Thank you.
I've loved it.
Folks, there's more listener feedback after the closing music. Thank you to everyone who supports this podcast with a subscription to the Grapevine magazine, in print or in the Grapevine app. Your support makes the half-hour variety hour possible.
You know what I don't appreciate about immediate gratification?
What? Oh, it
isn't fast enough.
It's really not that funny.
Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.
Hello, guys. I was listening to the latest podcast, Whatever is Asked of Me, Season 8, Episode 7, when I believe Don announced a new Grapevine book, Forming True Partnerships. I just wanted to clarify that this book was released many years ago. I believe in 2017. It's been on the Grapevine catalog for years. I'm not sure the reason they chose to feature it as the February Grapevine News, but I'm sure glad they did. I love the book title. In a true partnership, people look for solutions together. I didn't know how to do that. I was always only concerned with myself, how things would affect me. I needed help to improve and repair my relationships. I remember my sponsor asking me what was a sane and sound relationship to me. I had no idea what to answer. I'd never experienced one. Taking the steps and working with my sponsor helped me to change my behavior and to learn how to, quote, play well with others. Thank you for entertaining us every Monday. Nadja F., Granbury, Texas.
Thanks, Nadja. Yeah, that book, Forming True Partnerships, we were asked to promote that, and we thought that it was a new book, but it's not a new book. So we did make an error there. I'm glad you caught it, and we changed it in the file. But that doesn't change the fact that the book is a real gold mine.
And the truth is that all of us come to Alcoholics Anonymous not knowing what a true partnership is and not knowing how to do it. And I love your letter because it is taking the steps. It is working with a sponsor that helps me learn how to form a true partnership. Thanks for listening, and thank you for writing.
Okay, we have another one. This is titled, That Little Ditty on Birdies. Hey, folks, I got sober in Albuquerque in 1983. Sure, things were different back then. I hated being called a pigeon, yet I picked up the expression. How alcoholic of me. Over the years, and certainly in these older days, I clearly see that I wasn't unique. Yet the reality is that often newcomers do spook easy and dump all over you. Also, in these older days now, I clearly see that I am not here to hurt people, and certainly I don't want to chase them away. Yet that birdie short that you aired, I believe in 2024, somehow conveyed with humor not only the non-uniqueness of us alkies, but also the seriousness of our defects. The humor of that short also allows me and all of us to begin to see our devastatingly deadly, yet simultaneously often silly behaviors. I've tried to recount that short many times, but memory is not what I wish it to be. Would you inform me of the episode which this birdie short played? Maybe even replay it for the benefit of all. Love your silly half-hour variety hour podcast. Gary B.
Thank you, Gary. We love that you wrote into us. The episode that you refer to is at the end of Season 7, Episode 22. The show is entitled Standing with Integrity. It aired November 18th, 2024. We read an old humorous article from August of 1960 called Pigeons on the Glass, Alas, with lots of avian sound effects. Go find it, Gary. We are thrilled that you found humor in it, and we hope that others will go and check it out as well.
That was one with Miley T. doing the history
Love
segment.
Miley.
Yes. Thanks for writing, Gary.